Tom was really like geeking out over this idea of discipleship, training. Like, how do you train people? Like the art of training. And it's an art, right? It's a gift. Sorry. I just spit on you, Johannes. Sorry, Johannes. It's a gift. It's a gift. And it's something that, it's a tool belt that a bunch of us need to figure out how to use once again, right? And so I'm really excited. Tom was willing to give up three of his Fridays once a month for 3 consecutive months to give us an hour and a half of what he's learning in the process of learning how to teach people. So he's a corporate trainer for Fisher Homes now. He's a super high quality guy, great person for you guys to be connected with, and he's been generously willing to share his wisdom and insight with us today. So anyway, welcome Tom Hanson. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Really great. And so, yeah, let me just start off by that was a very generous and kind introduction. And you should have set the bar lower, I think. You know, just like high expectations. But you know, we're going to under-promise, over-deliver here. That's what we're going to try to do. But real quick, just to add a little bit to my background. I got a bachelor's degree in communication from UC. I got a master's in education from College of Mount St. Joe. I was a classroom math teacher for a little bit. I spent 7 years working with Dakota Bierman. We worked around the idea of ACT test training. I was the lead trainer, the trainer of trainers there. The last 3 years, I've been working at Fisher Homes as a corporate trainer. The big challenge in Fisher Homes for us, and if any of you guys are in the construction industry, trade industry, you get it. It's just been bonkers right now. But for us, what we're finding is, and then because primarily I focus on the construction side of things, so I train field managers that manage the construction of the home. But what we're finding by and large is that it's hard to find people with tons of applicable construction knowledge, and like those people are getting harder and harder to find. Hey, welcome, come on in. We did go around the room and say our name and favorite animal, just FYI.
Favorite animal, RV?
Nameless animal?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say raccoons. I hate them.
Oh, I hate raccoons. Okay, we'll switch it. Least favorite animal. That's what we're doing afterwards. But no. So at Fisher Homes, what I do is, or the big struggle is, we're struggling to find those people with tons of the construction knowledge that we can just plug in. But what we're finding is more and more folks that want to escape the cubicle life and want to start building homes, working with their hands. We're finding a lot of young people that have literally no construction experience at all. And our big challenge is how do we get them to be effective quickly? Early on, we were seeing that to be a 12 or 18 month process. And so our big focus, especially for the last 2 years, is to build a program that can do it in 6 months. And so that's been the big focus. That's been the complex problem that we've been figuring out. We've been building the plane as we fly it, but seeing a lot of early success that's giving us a lot of encouragement. But key to that process is training the trainers, right? That's been the key. That's the groundbreaking idea. Is it doesn't work to bring people in and put them in a chair and throw them PowerPoints. Like, it doesn't work, especially with this kind of work that's hands-on, right? It's ineffective. Lecturing doesn't work. They got to get hands-on. And so a lot of that training is happening not in a classroom, but on the job, right? Not at a big training event, but on the day-to-day. And so for us, it's really trying to crack that code of how do we make that super effective, right? How do we take the people, the experts, and take the knowledge that they have in their head and transfer it quickly and efficiently to the people, and not make them perfect in 6 months, but just get them to be effective. Start making an impact in 6 months. That's the goal. And so a lot of those lessons that we've learned and the things that we've been doing to train the trainers is what I'm going to be showing you for the next 3 sessions. Okay. But before we get into all of that nuts and bolts stuff, I do want to say this right out the gate. This is not a lecture series, okay? This isn't school. I'm not your teacher, okay? This is going to be pretty interactive, all right? So this PowerPoint deck I have has 5 slides on it, okay? Maybe a total of 20 words, not a lot, okay? Because a lot of the insights I'm going to show you is rather than show you a lot and you know, make you drink out of a fire hose, one of my favorite training isms is drinking out of a fire hose is a terrible way to hydrate. So I'm not going to do that with you, but I'm going to show you a couple simple, effective things, and then we're just going to spend our time refining those, right? Deepening your knowledge of it and having you actually practice it. And so a lot of the insights that you're going to get out of today, honestly, are going to be less out of my head as this training guru and more out of the people sitting around you and just kind of your own practice, okay? So this is not Death by PowerPoint, this is not a lecture series, this is not school, this is hands-on interactive, okay? So, to facilitate that, let's do some quick intros. All right, I'd love to just know who's here, get a little bit of a picture of, so just give me your name, give me your area of work, what you do, okay? We'll share that with everyone to kind of break the ice a little bit. We'll start here. Yeah.
Everyone, my name is Johannes, and I work for Greater Cincinnati Urban Young Life, basically a faith-based mentoring organization within Cincinnati Public Schools and a couple of other public schools.
Cool. Yeah, I was a young life leader for 7 years.
Ooh, where?
Yeah, Amelia, East Side. Yeah,
Now it doesn't even exist.
Amelia is gone.
It's-
Wiped off the map. That's the result of my ministry.
They did say it.
They're like, there was a guy there that actually contributed to the. No, I'm just kidding. But go on. Yeah.
I'm Jake Winstrup. I work for the same organization.
Very cool. Go ahead.
My name's Gretchen
No,
Kraus.
you go. No, you go.
I'm gonna go. My name's Gretchen Kraus. My husband and I are with DWK Construction. We renovate homes and real estate investment.
And I'm Doug. What did she say? Very good. Gretchen, Doug. Very cool.
I'm Tommy Clifton. I'm with DWK as well. I'm Director of Workforce Development and placed up in Tri-County Public Works Center. So,
Tommy, that's gonna be he's one for me. Man, he's standing up,
You bet.
folks. Man, taking over this.
Yeah.
Initiative. Key to success. Take charge.
My name is Mike, and
Initiative.
I am responsible for business development within the Lowry Glass.
Oh, very cool. Thanks, Mike. Oh yeah, you gotta stand up now.
Sure. At least not be the first one to break the chain. R.B. Davis, spent about 45 years remodeling residential kitchens and baths. Thought I was retired, then COVID hit, my wife's job disappeared.
Oh, man.
And enjoying doing some light commercial remodeling, but thinking about some teaching instruction on down the road.
Absolutely.
And curious as to whether or not I'm going to qualify.
Hey man, you got that. Go ahead, Rick.
My name's Zach. I work at Alluring Glass, but mainly I work for Jerry. We're doing some side initiatives together, range from project management to some mentorships and stuff like that. So many hats.
Yeah. Hey, it's all about turning the hat.
I'm Maddie. I'm the communications director for Conduit and DuBois at Lowry Glass.
Yeah. Good.
I'm Olivia. I'm a student at UC and Maddie's in training.
Awesome.
I'm Andrew Glasgow. I own H. Glasgow Construction for Generation Company. We do a lot of full service, upper end kitchens, bathrooms, additions, whole homes.
Very cool.
Ellen Glasgow, the other half of H. Glasgow Construction.
Very cool. And you marched to the beat of your own drum. You're like standing up, not standing up.
That's right.
No. And I respect that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of
You
respect for
can hear
that.
me, you can see me.
I love it. Yeah.
I'm Mike Holcomb. I'm the general manager of Kangaroo Roof. We do the residential, commercial, and property management-based roofing, siding, and other repairs and replacements.
You went to New Richmond?
I did,
What? Yeah, me. What year did you graduate?
2002.
2003. I knew you looked familiar. Yeah,
I'm just beautiful.
Yeah, man. Well, I was captivated. That's another subject, but you also look familiar. Yeah, like I'm really close friends with Josh Knuckle, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Josh and Stacy.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, all right. We'll give me your Facebook info later.
I'm Blaine Branstetter. I own Kangaroo, and that's non-existent town called Amelia over there. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome.
Rick Boyle, Creative Contracting. We are a residential design and build general contractor.
Okay. Very cool.
Chad Nichols, Centec Solutions. We are the low voltage trade.
We do smart home systems, audio visual security, smart control, managing principal of them.
Very cool.
Looking forward to hearing what you have to offer and what we can do to help.
Awesome, man.
Nick Kova, Fear Home. I am operations manager at Lowering Glass.
Awesome. That's it.
I'm Jacob Vandenberg. I have my own little consultancy. It's just me. So I do sales technology work and sales systems for companies in the B2B space.
Awesome. Great. Oh, yeah.
I'm Connor Ryan, and I do the multimedia for kind of a couple of I work for Jerry. I do multimedia for Alluring Glass, Conduit Cap, so a couple different hats, and continuing to do more of that for other companies and things, trying to at least. So we're kind of going into other clients, so it's cool.
Super cool, man. Yeah, glad to hear it. Happy for your help. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get it started and kind of talk about the topic for today, which is how to build a culture that draws people in, develops them, and sets them up for success. So as I thought about how to train trainers, particularly with a focus on hands-on trade work, one of the most important, if not the most important topic, the foundation of all of that is culture, is relationships. And so what I'm going to ask you all to do today is to reflect and think about the culture that exists around you, around your organization, around your work, and think about, is that a culture that draws people in, develops them, and sets them up for success? Right? That's going to be the big idea. Okay, I'm going to give you a few topics, a few ideas, but the big idea is how can we foster the culture that allows training to grow, right? It's like we think about a seed, right? A seed needs the right environment to grow. And so when you're thinking about training, your training needs the right environment to grow. And that environment is all based on relationships. And so that's going to be the big idea for today. And so, you know, one of the things that Jerry and I were talking, it's remarkable how many people think they're a really good trainer, right? They just like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can't tell you how many construction managers, field managers I talk to that just go, I'm really good. I give them a self-assessment. Tell me how good you are at different things like fostering this kind of culture. How good are you at working through an expert bias so that you can get information to other people? And like remarkably, almost all of them rate themselves very highly before any training begins. They literally think that they're really good at it. Right? I remember one time specifically, we were doing a training on footer foundation, right? So we had our footer foundation checklist. We're out on a job, and literally the construction manager talks without ceasing for 90 minutes straight, non-stop. And it was interesting because I was like talking to people after, how much of that did you actually remember? Shockingly little, right? And so we can think that we can get in this mindset that we think that we're really, really good at training. So when Jerry brought it up, it is a very specific skill, right? It is something that is learned, it is trained. People go to college for years to learn how to actually teach and train. And so the first step of it is we have to acknowledge the fact that we, as individuals, probably need to work on this. You know, one of the questions I posed to Jerry is, would you agree that the skills required to remodel a home, install a roof, right, like install a glass shower, are different than the skills required to teach and train? Of course they are, right? Have you ever been around someone that is just an expert in their field or expert in their knowledge, but they were not a great communicator or trainer? Right? Like you can think back to school. You had those teachers that were like super smart, couldn't teach very well. Right? In trade work, you get the guy that just knows how to do it, and you ask him, how does that work? And then they just start, right, I don't know, just do it. You just gotta know. That's how it works. That's just the way, you know, like, it's a skill. There's a disconnect there. Right? One of my good friends, Connor, would you mind pulling that door closer? Yeah. Is that okay? Thank you. One of my cohorts, the other trainer at Fisher Holmes, his name's Blake. Blake's is about this tall. He's about 130 pounds, but he loves basketball. Been coaching, but he's a very successful basketball coach. And then I asked him, did you ever play? He's like, I played my entire life, right? I played basketball my entire life. Because I'm this tall and I'm 130 pounds, I wasn't very good at basketball, right? But what it forced me to do is I had to understand other positions. I had to understand how to make other people better. And just that experience alone made him a better coach, right? And you hear this like disparaging statement. I don't know if this rings any bells. Those who can't do, teach, right? There's some truth to that, right? But what it's really acknowledging, though, again, is that the skills to teach are unique. And now what we're finding ourselves in a position in our culture is not only the skills to teach unique, they're rare and they're valuable. And so we've got to spend some time to focus on it, right? We've got to focus and hone those skills, right? Refine those skills because they are probably lacking. So when it comes to building a culture and developing these skills, it comes back to relationships. So here's what I want you to do. I want to spend a couple minutes talking with each other. Before we start getting into how do you create that culture, how do you create those relationships that foster training and development, I want you to reflect on the person, the relationship that was that for you. Who made you who you are today? Who taught you what you need to be successful? Who taught you the skills that you use for success today? Who was that person? Who comes to mind? For me, it's easy. It's my stepdad, Bill. My stepdad, Bill, he is a 20-year Army veteran. He fought in the Gulf War. He looks like a character from King of the Hill. I've never seen the man drink another fluid besides Diet Pepsi. But when I was growing up, he was my hero. He meant everything to me, right? And I was an Army brat. In the Army, like we traveled around. And when I lived in, at one point we lived in Fort Riley, Kansas. You know if anyone's ever been to Kansas, driven through recently? There's nothing really there. So it's like a blank gray slate. But when we moved there, we moved on the Army base is where we lived. We were getting in all kinds of issues. I was getting in fights. It was just not doing well in school. So Bill made the decision. We're moving off the Army base. And he got 5 acres of land in the middle of nowhere, Junction City, Kansas, on a farm. So he bought this 5-acre plot, or rented it, because we were only there temporarily for the Army. And I lived there for most of my formative years before being relocated to New Richmond later when I was in high school. But growing up on that farm made me who I am today. So when I was in 7th grade, it was the end of the school year, summer was starting, and Bill looked at me and he goes, I'm going to make you a deal. You're going to work on the farm every day. This is what you're going to do every single day. This is going to be your job. But in exchange for your hard work, I'm going to give you $500. That was more money than I could ever imagine. At that point in my life, I was like, give it to me. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? It's like, all right, here's how it works. I will give you $500 when you earn 500 points. I was like, okay, deal. How do I get a point? He said, a point is an hour's work. I didn't realize it at the time that he had contrived a system to pay me $1 an hour like some indentured servant, but I didn't care. I was like, yes, all right, and I got to work. I seriously got to work. It was like the first time I ever really remember working hard. Like I would be chopping wood, digging ditches. We built a greenhouse that summer. We rebuilt a 1984 Ford Bronco too. Like rebuilt the engine, all of it. I mean, that's what I did all summer. And every day, I had a yellow notebook by my bed, and I would tally my hours, my points. He didn't call them hours; they were points. That was strategic. And I would go up to him at the end of the day, how many points did I get? It's like, good job, you got 10 points today. And I'd go to my room and I would tally my points. And I remember that was the first time I could remember like my hands being so tired and worn out that I couldn't close them. They were seized up, right? That feeling. But that was the first time that I ever experienced the hard work like that, and also made the connection of hard work to success, right? That was the first time it made that connection. And at the end of the summer, I got there. I had my yellow notebook was filled with tally marks. I turned it in. And true to his word, he gave me $500 and I made it rain as a 7th grader. It was more money than, and I blew it all in one trip to the mall with a Nintendo 64 in like 2 games. But the lesson was timeless and valuable, right? And I have carried that along with me in every aspect of my life. It's like, if you want something, you got to work for it. If you want success, it's going to be hard work. You got to put in the time and the effort. And that made me who I am. That taught me what I needed to be successful. So I would like to think about that person for you. And so here's what I want you to do. You're in pairs here, and Jerry can jump into this group of 3 something here. But I would like you to share with the person next to you who that person was for you. All right, so you got about 4 minutes each. So take turns. Who made you who you are today, and what did they teach you? Go ahead.
Yes.
It's so cool just to walk around and listen to some of your guys' talks and conversations. Jerry's right, man. I geek out over this stuff. I love it. I really do. And you know, the reason I did that was not necessarily to have a kumbaya, like Dr. Phil kind of moment. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to really personalize this whole topic for you. Like, I wanted you to have someone in the forefront of your mind. I wanted that to be really fresh when we start talking about this. Because here's the goal, right? I'm going to spoil the ending for you. You ready? Whoever that person was, I want you, and you are going to become that person for someone else. As significant as that person was to you. Right? I'm sure some of you, like, got really sentimental when you were thinking about the person, right? Like, when you're thinking about a boss, a mentor, a parent, a coach, a sibling, or just, you know, in the back we're talking about how there's a whole bunch of those people, and they came at different stages in life, right? It meant a lot to you, right? It got kind of emotional. And so you are going to be, I want you to envision that. That's the idea. Someone will be asked that question at some point in their lives, and they are going to say Dakota. They're going to say Rick. They're going to say Jerry. They're going to say your name, right? And they're going to have this really great story to tell about what you did for them and with them, right? So cultures are all based on relationships. Cultures, learning, this is one of my favorite quotes right here. No significant learning occurs without a significant relationship. That's huge. Relationships are everything. And so, do you foster these kinds of significant relationships that create that learning that you need? Does your company, does your business do this? That's the hard question to ask. I got to tell you, that one of the biggest challenges that we have at Fisher, and I hope I'm not, sharing anything that I shouldn't share, but we're changing a culture. There has just been a culture. Fisher Homes has been around for 40 years. There's a culture at Fisher Homes. And in some ways, that culture is really amazing because it's made us successful. In other ways, it is not fostering the kind of learning and development that we need. And that is a hard thing that we've had to learn and that we are slowly trying to work through. But what I'm finding is no matter how great the program is, no matter how great your PowerPoint is, no matter how clearly you can explain something, if that culture is not there supporting that, it's worthless. It's worthless. It's not going to stick. It's not going to create change in someone. And so you really got to think about your cultures and your organizations and the culture that's around you. And so, we're talking about trade work. I know not everyone here is in trade work, and that's okay, but I hope you can relate to this as well. But when you talk about trade work and when you talk about construction specifically, there is a culture. There is a very unique and specific culture around construction and trade work and those kinds of things. And so I wanted to show you a quick video. And what's funny about this is the name of this video is Things Construction Workers Love. And it's just it's a funny video, I'll let you know that. But it is shocking. It really struck me when I watched it. One, I watched it, I thought it was hilarious. This guy's really funny. But the other thing that really struck me is like, oh my gosh, when he's talking about literally just things about construction workers love, how many of those things really expose some toxicity in relationships and culture, right? And see if you can relate to it, okay? And this is not a relationship culture. This is not a training. This is not about training. It's just about training culture around construction. But it's shocking how remarkable it will strike you in this context. Oh, my sound.
Oh, give that to Ryan. Hand it to him.
Hold 1 second. Technical difficulties.
Very good.
Man, I'm so embarrassed right now. Just like, come on, Tom. This is amateur hour stuff. Here we go.
This is gonna be a long. New guy, got some coffee here. Yeah, there you go. Give that to Ryan. Hand it to him. Not for you. This is gonna be a long day. Hey, new guy, why don't you head up to the truck and grab the board stretcher for me? Just head up there. You'll know when you see it. This is too easy. Hey, new guy, since it's your first day, I thought I'd get you a present. Your first ever drill. Hey, don't break it. Tradition around here, boss buys a new guy lunch on his first day. Actually, he's probably gonna want your order, so go tell him what you want. Yeah, go, he's right over there. See, he's gonna do it. He's telling him, he's gonna see, new guy started? Yeah, we should just make up a nickname for him. Hey, let's call him Tackle Box. No reason. Just do it. God, that'll be quits today. Hey, come here. Yeah. Come on. Yeah, so all kidding aside, this is the crew. We got Boomer over here. Then we got Sticks, obvious, very skinny. Then we also have Diesel, obvious, big boy. That guy, his name's Tim. Real name's Tom, but we had 2 Toms. We can't have 2 Toms on the job site, so it's Tim. And then the other Tom is Ted. We got Tim and Ted, both named Tom. Trevor, real name's Tyler. No idea why we call him Trevor. Hey, Tackle Box, you seen the Johnson sisters yet? What do you mean? They're brothers. That's why we call them that. What kind of stupid question is that? They're brothers, so they're sisters. Then obviously the boss man. He doesn't really have a nickname when he's around. I need to head to the gas station. Give me a monster. Ooh, and a roll. Give me a roll and a monster. All right, we heading out. I'm gonna stop at the gas station and then I'll meet you at the site. Yep. Lunchtime, yeah, I'm gonna go to the gas station. Holiday right there. Myself one of those little pizzas. I like a monster, of course. Yep, back again for lunch. Alright, I'm heading to the gas station. Anyone need anything? I'm going to Holiday. Monster, 3 monsters. Alright, I'll be back. Don't worry, we got it. Must be nice to be able to get a couple extra hours. You look pretty rested. Good guy. You look tired, man. You go drinking last night? Oh, she kicked you out of the house, stayed at your buddies again? I'm sorry, man. Bet you guys cuddled though, didn't ya? What am I doing standing around? I might be standing around, but I still done more work than you today. Hey, pretty hard to swing a hammer with your hands in your pockets. Hey, what did you say Ted was going to be today? Funeral. Easy day for Ted. Gets to be inside AC, hang out with his family, eat those little sandwiches, probably some hot dish. Boomer, you got some new boots. Jeez, what's going on? Didn't you not making you pay child support anymore? Hey, you still dating that girl? Really? Well, when she comes to her senses, send her my way. What? Oh, really? You're gonna do this right now? Is that what your mom said last night? We're doing this? Tackle Box, look away. This is gonna get ugly. Come here. Oh, he's been on one lately. What's his deal? Oh, he's not my mullet. He's constantly just barking. Hey, boss. Hey, yeah. Oh, you need us to work late tonight. No problem. Yeah, we're just leaving in a minute. Shut up. What else am I supposed to say? I don't know where the boss man's at. Why driving around? That's all he does all day long. A lot of windshield time for that guy. I like to see him down the hole. Into the devil. Here he comes. Hey, let's get in the hole. Come on. You want the crew to kind of pick her up this afternoon? Yeah, no problem. I'll let them know you want us to go faster. All right, we'll see you later. It'd be faster if you were helping out. God forbid he gets his hands dirty. I'll be going to this manicure right now. Oh, nothing. Yeah, speed it up, guys. What am I doing? I am reorganizing all of the boards. Boss said that they're on the trailer. How much more organized does he want? They wanted me to do it. This is a Tackle Box job. You know what? He's going to show up here at 4:45, so we can't leave early. As soon as his tailgates are on the corner, I'm hopping in my rig. I'm going to pass him on 25th Street. Flip him off. No, I'm doing it this time.
All right. Cool. So, pretty accurate. That kind of show you. But like, what's interesting there. And it's funny, right? And I get it. And I want to be clear, the pushback that I get a lot on our jobs is like, this isn't therapy, I'm not Dr. Phil, this isn't Kumbaya, they can't handle a little razzing, and that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about that, right? What we are talking about though, is you saw that it's literally like, at one point it's like, oh, I hope he quits today. Can we make his life a living hell enough that he can quit? That's like part of the mentality that exists around jobs, right? Rather than, are we, like I said, drawing people in, developing them, setting them up for success? That's the culture that we're trying to change. You know, it's amazing how that culture exists in construction. It also exists in other places. There's just this defensiveness with bringing new people on. There's like all kinds of issues. There's like a lot of hand-holding. This is one I hear a lot. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this. A lot of folks that have been successful in their roles did not have the smoothest course getting there.
Right.
And so they draw on that experience a lot. Well, man, they made my life a living hell. I was down the hole. I pushed a broom for 6 months before they let me do anything, right? And a lot of that is, so they feel like that's the way it's got to be, and that's another part of the issue, the culture that we got to change, right? Because I think we can all look back objectively and say, even though that may be how you came up, right? Good for you for finding success in that in the midst of that. That is not something that we would say is the best and most effective way to bring people in, set them up for success, develop them, right? And so when I talk about culture, when I talk about the culture of that supports learning and development, one of the best examples I have is Lou Holtz. Anyone heard of Lou Holtz? Like, just incredible, prolific college football coach. Just very recently, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. I got a few stats on because I don't know them offhand, but you know, Lou Holtz most notably coached Notre Dame from '86 to '96. He's the only college football coach to lead 6 different programs to bowl games, and the only coach to guide 4 different programs to the final top 20 rankings. Incredibly successful college football coach. And since that time, has become a really, really successful public speaker, motivational speaker. So if you've seen any of his stuff, it's great. But this is his 3 questions asked of every leader. Because the thing that's really remarkable about Lou Holtz and why I love Lou Holtz is all of his success on the field is undeniable, right? But what he says, by far, the reason I have the success that I have on the field is because of the relationships I've been able to build off the field. He associates it all with relationships. And if you know about his players and the relationships they had, his players would run through a wall for him. They loved him, right? And he grew up and developed. And this guy is saying the key is culture and relationships. And so these are his 3 questions. And I would ask you to ask these questions of yourself and of the companies that you represent, of the cultures that you're building in your organizations. How would folks answer these questions about the culture? The first one is, every single person of every leader is asking, can I trust you? When I think about trust, I always like to think about the word trustworthy. Are you worthy of trust? Right? Are the people that are developing your novices, are they worthy of trust? And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're stealing money and lying, you know, that obviously that's a problem, right? But there's also this element of, do new people feel safe? Right? People grow and change and develop and learn when they feel safe. And again, not like physical safety, like, is there this culture where if I say the wrong thing, I'll never hear the end of it? Right? I can't ask a question because I'll look stupid. Right? They will berate me if I don't do this thing, X, Y, or Z. And what we're finding with a lot of our new folks is they do that for a while, but eventually they burn out. It does not work long term. So that's what I mean by trust, right? Is it safe? Is it okay to make mistakes? Is it okay to ask questions? Is it okay to be vulnerable? Right? And learning is incredibly vulnerable. You got to admit you don't know something, you're not good at something. So is that kind of thing okay? Is that accepted? You create a culture where that's acceptable, right? Or is it a lot of chest beating? Is it a lot of like showing of your expertise and superiority rather than focusing on the people that need to grow and develop, right? Can I trust you? Question 1. Question 2, are you committed? Are you committed? And there's a lot to that word. This is what I tell my folks. You've got to be committed to the job, to the work, right? Are you a person that is committed to the processes that you have? That's huge for us. We like spend hours and hours developing these job aids and checklists and all these different things, and walking the home, doing a frame check, develop this great checklist, throw them out in the field, and the people that are training the new folks don't even follow the checklist, right? Or what happens a lot too is they'll be hired and they'll be promised at hire, this is a great organization, great training program, you're going to be paired with someone, and then they're like, great, where's my person? And that person's like, man, just go sit over there, go push a broom, go punch out that house, like just leave it. Like training is a distraction. It's more work, so they don't want to do it, right? I'm not hand holding you, I'm not babysitting you. And so these people are like, it's like a catch-22, right? It's like the rug pull, like, whoa, this is like, I'm drawn in, being told that there's a training mentoring culture here, but then my mentor doesn't care about me, doesn't like thinks of me as just more work and a distraction, right? The next one is, do you care about me? Right? Do you have the person's interest in mind? Again, this doesn't have to be lovey-dovey stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, are the people that are novices in your organization, are there people around them that genuinely think about them as valuable people, worthwhile, right? Care about their life. This can be as simple as just little touch points, asking about life, those kind of things. But by and large, people just need to feel that there are a team of people that are advocating for their success. If they don't feel that way, right? Because the culture says, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do it by yourself, that's how I did it, get out of here and figure it out, right? That's where things start to unravel. What needs to happen is like, man, I've got 3 people that I know for a fact are invested in my success and pushing for me to be successful. So think about these questions. What would your novice learners in your organizations or people around you say when they are asked, can I trust you? When they ask, can I trust you? Are you committed? Do you care about me? And for Lou Holtz, those were the 3 questions that he filtered it all through. Everything that he did on and off the field, he was answering these 3 questions. I mean, I can't, like, did any of his players think that he wasn't all in for their success? That he wasn't passionate about making them successful as people on and off the field, right? Like, did they feel safe to learn and grow and make mistakes without the repercussions of that? I mean, the answer is, of course not, right? He wouldn't have the success that he has. Right? So if you're going to be the Lou Holtz of your organization or of your work, you've got to work on constantly answering these questions. You've got to coach up your trainers that are in your organizations to think about these questions better, right? And a lot of that is, you got to coach up those people and hold them accountable. So let me take a moment here just to stop. Give me some reactions to that. Anyone have any thoughts, any processing? Did this hit home for anybody? Yeah.
I think you make a really good point, a really good connection. I think we all know that there's a separation there because they call it the carpet in the concrete scenario.
Yeah.
You're bringing the new people on. They're hiring. Their job is to promise them. They are the ones sitting in rooms coaching the people on the field, only for them to get on the field and go, I don't have time for this. Nobody did it to me. So how do you connect the person that you have in the meeting, the manager, let's just call it that level, the manager in the meeting with the personality he has with the owner, and then the personality he has with the employees on the job site.
Yeah, that's great. Did this resonate with anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
I've had success in that approach with my business, but where I stumble is taking what I have inside of me and conveying it to my manager.
Yeah. So you're feeling like I feel like I'm living this out, but getting those other people to live this out is the real challenge. Absolutely.
Buy-in.
Buy-in, yep,
I
absolutely.
feel like even I internally struggle on a regular basis, regardless of who I'm dealing with. I had the hard way in, so that's the way that's who made me who I am. So I'm gonna give you the hard way in because that's how I got to here. So I have a hard time being softer in my approach, I guess.
Right, yeah.
I think that's the thing that got me with the email too, is kind of what you're talking about. And most owners or people that are running organizations would say, like, you're not in this position unless you're probably here, but multiplying that into other people is way more difficult. Because in some way, you have, if you're a leader of something, you have this fire, this extra gear that got you there most likely. But the slow way, that's why I'm here. I'm like, how do you multiply that? That's way more difficult.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm here because I've been waiting for decades to see somebody take your position seriously. When I used to get a new helper on the job, sometimes I was a one-man crew, we had 3. Sometimes there were 10 people, you know, and we didn't want to start somebody
Is there an
else.
Ellen in here?
Yes.
It's my lunch.
Oh, you're good. You're all good.
But
Have you brought enough for everyone, Ellen?
No, they ain't in front of us.
You're good.
I'd be the guy that somebody else hired to work with me in a 5x8 bathroom for 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
That
You didn't
I
have
had no say in, it
Yeah.
was my rules, and I feed jobs to my old boss. 50 years later, we're still friends. But you know, this has been a missing link for a long time. Could be the reason there's a labor shortage. Because people just got fed up and gave up on it and got the hell out.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
One of the things that's striking me right now is I'm thinking about some of my friends, and I'm thinking about my in-laws, and the way that, like, my father-in-law led his family wasn't very sensitive, like emotionally sensitive. The way that my father-in-law showed that he loved his wife and his kids was by providing for them. And I think one of the things that we struggle with is leaders that, like, the way that they show that they care about us is they provide for us, but they really don't physically show they care for us. And I've been challenged with that with our staff, where, you know, I've been challenged by them before, my son being one of them, to say, hey, you know, I hear you say that you care about us, but your actions don't show that you actually care about us. So I'm finding this convicting again for me because, you know, like, you know, Rick and I have had this conversation a bunch over the years. Rick knows that I love my guys, but when I'm with my guys, am I actually being present when I'm trying to get shit done? You know, do they feel that I actually care about them, right? And I think I think my feelings towards my staff is different than my actions towards my staff a lot of times.
Yeah, just to add on to that, so I think what Jerry said is hugely important, and the thing we have to train ourselves on is understanding the styles, interpersonal styles, motivational styles that people react to and need to. And I don't know what they all are, but there's, you know, sort of a categorization of some people get motivated by this method and other people by other methods. You have to learn what that is for them.
Right.
And then also learning styles is kind of the other piece, which is even more germane to what we're talking about. You know, you've got, I'm a visual learner.
Yep.
You've got people who learn by audio and other learning types. But those are going to be important for us to learn and understand because I'm sure the people around us we're trying to train, some are going to learn one way or another, and it's not in A equals A equals A.
Yeah, that's something we're going to talk about in one of the weeks, one of the months. Is because in my experience and in the research that I've seen, you're 100% right. Although one of the misconceptions that I think we've worked out of is like, I'm just a visual person, and you're an audio learner, you're a tactile kinesthetic learner, you know, like, and really what research would really show us is that it takes a blended way. Like, sure, we could be, I'm a very much an auditory person, very much. Like, can I just call someone? And I just called a park ranger, just like, to talk through it with me, and I'm like, okay, I get it, right? But do visuals help me? Of course they do. Does hands-on work? You know, one of the biggest misconceptions that we have is this is how learning happens. I have a thought, I move that thought to my mouth, it goes in your ear, it goes in your brain, it's there forever. This is not how learning works. And we all know that, right? But that's what we think, because that's what happens all the time when I'm like, dude, I told you this 3 times. Like, I sent you the email. Like, what's the problem? Right? Like, we talked about this already, right? And they're constantly frustrated because we're believing that misconception, right?
10,000 times.
Right. You know, that's one of the benefits. I have lots of benefits from being a classroom teacher, but one of the biggest ones is I have to live with the experience of like, test is on Friday, kids show up, there's a test today? I said it 30 times. Like, I literally like, make eye contact with me, test on Friday. And they go, and then I'm like, they just realize like, that's how the brain works, right? And so anyway, we're going down the rabbit hole there. One thing I did want to follow up is I processed, Mike, who's with you there, Kangaroo? Dwayne, to your point, I was processing what you shared and it was really good, and I was like, I wanted to add something. So his point was, I get it, I'm doing it, how do I get other people to do it? That has been an issue for us too at Fisher. And so one of the biggest things that we did is we kind of accepted that some people are going to be great on-the-job trainers and some people aren't. And so we went through and actually identified who was the person, and we kind of like incentivized them by salary. We give them kind of extra visibility, a new title, just different things like that. So that, and then we pour into them, and so they're kind of like, we have elite coaches in sales, we call them FM4s in construction, and they are a designated job trainer. I don't know how your business is structured or anything like that, but for us it was, let's recruit and find the right people to do this, because other people are great, they're effective, they do great work, they just may not be that coach, trainer, mentor person, and that's okay, but let's just not try to force someone with them if it's not going to be a good experience. I don't know, I don't know if that helps at all, but, and again, I don't know about your structure or anything, but. Yeah.
Well, one of the important things that Peter didn't bring up is that we got to be intentional about it. 100%. You know, because everybody in here is in some higher level function of a business, and you get caught in the operational tempo, the day to day. You got clients to serve, you got payrolls to make, you have complaints, positive feedback, negative feedback. But what we've recently been doing probably the last 6 months is being very intentional with the development of not just our team, but then the other leaders within the organization. Because you can't, to your point, you can't just say to do this. You have to reaffirm and keep working towards development to be where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times we think that training is, it's like, it's not done accidentally. It's not Forrest Gump. They're just running into situations, like, he's not really intentionally really doing much, right? Like, that's the same with training. Training has to be a conscious choice, right? Something you're doing constantly. The analogy I always use with folks is, think about the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat. Right? Thermometer is reactive. Temperature goes up, thermometer goes up. Temperature goes down, thermometer goes down. Right? It's just reacting to things. Right? What's the difference between that and a thermostat? Thermostat's intentional. You program this thing to be 71 degrees. It forces this room to be 71 degrees. Right? And so, like, that's so much of what I try to train people to do is like, become the thermostat. Just make the choice of what you want it to be, and then consciously make the effort to make it that way. That's the only way it's going to work. Right? So if you said, we want to call culture of training, that you got to get really practical and figure out what those things are to make it happen. That's great. Thanks, Mike, for sharing that. Any other thoughts on this? Anyone like seeing that? I always like to point out bright spots. There's a lot, so often I think we overlook the fact that great things are already happening. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Anyone seeing some success in their organizations or around them, around this like the idea of building this kind of culture? Any practical tips you'd want to share? Yeah.
I just would say that I think you're spot on because our culture is going from the past way of the world to this. I'm finding that when I'm interviewing people coming on for the first time, I'm hearing they trust me in the conversation. They feel like when they left the interview that I was committed to helping them versus a year ago when we were bringing in, hey, what's my pay? What do I get? What do I get? What do I get? They weren't asking for, most recently, they weren't asking what kind of money am I getting out of this? They're asking me if the way my personality is really the way that the company is.
Yeah.
So it could not have been better than we're hearing it.
Well, people were looking for jobs before, but people are looking for homes now.
Yeah.
And they want somewhere that they feel comfortable. And they've been places where the training wasn't efficient.
Yeah.
So you're burdening yourself even more. It's like Jerry's invite with Paul Boucher. When you're bringing on more people, are you adding more work to yourself or less work to yourself? You know, we just brought on 3 people. My next few weeks will be miserable.
Yeah.
But after that, they should be more efficient.
Yeah. It takes, the statistic is it takes 5 times the amount of time to train someone to do something that a skilled person can do. And you think about a single task that would take you an hour, it takes 5 hours to train people to do that one single task, let alone all the tasks that are involved in a job. And it is a long-term investment. You cannot do that if you're fighting fires every day. Like, you just can't. You're always going to be making those compromises. It amazes me that every one of us has more to do than we have time to do it. That's everybody. Everyone. Every single one of us is juggling, and we're choosing which balls to drop and which ones to keep in the air. That's always the choice. And successful people learn to keep the right balls in the air, right? Sometimes that falls off, right? I haven't spent time with my family in 10 years, right? That's not a ball that you want to drop, right? But my point is, it is just shocking to me how often training and development is that ball that's dropped. It's the first one. Things get busy, drop that. We were going to do this whole training thing today. Nope. Drop it. Right? But you're exactly right. If you do that enough, because this is another one. I've got a lot of one-liners. You guys are going to love it. Make time for health or make time for illness. Which one? You guys spend time doing something. Training your people to do it the right way, bringing them in, building a culture, that's health. So it's like you're going to spend time doing that. He said, I'm going to spend 3 weeks developing these people. Or on the back end, you're going to deal with mistakes, upset customers, an unhealthy culture. That takes a lot of time. That's a lot of your time. Right? So where do you want to spend that time? Do you want to spend it on the front end with health, or do you want to spend it on the back end with illness? Dwayne, you had something?
I was just going to say, we have a lot of our team consists of either old dogs that are hard to, that are a little bit abrasive, because that's the way they were brought up, or young people that don't have the time on the job. So we don't have enough of those. Either we don't have enough trainers, or I haven't been able to find them. Maybe that's my fault for not looking hard enough. But it seems like we have one or the other. And then the abrasive ones, they create an atmosphere sometimes that's not conducive to, as these folks behind me were, they were saying, hey, people are looking for a home, they're looking for a place where they can feel comfortable. And again, when there's abrasive leaders, sometimes it's hard to create that atmosphere. That's kind of what we're up to.
Yeah, and that, 100%, we can talk after this. It's been our struggle at Fisher, man. It's like, same deal. Folks have been doing this for 25 years, and this kid right out of college who's never built a thing in his life, but he's excited about the idea of working hands-on in the construction industry, right? And so a lot of my work has been, I'm the one pulling the insights out of these guys' heads and putting it into a way that people can take it, a lot of video, a lot of different things like that, and pairing these folks with maybe someone who isn't the most skilled craftsman in the world, but at least someone that is bought into the idea of training and development, right? You have one thought back there? Yeah.
You covered it at the very beginning. Those that can't do, teach.
Yeah.
Those that do feel like it's a burden to teach.
Because it is. It's the work.
We have old school guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. You learn by being here and pushing the broom and up, then you can move up to the next step. But their attention isn't, hey, here's why we're doing this. It's getting the hell out of the way because the trusses are flying in right now, and I don't want you going to the hospital.
But I've sat in a room with 100 business owners at every type of company, and there is a massive middle management, middle level deficiency in the United States right now. I mean, if you go to a corporate downtown, Fifth Third is trying to get that middle, and so I don't think it's just in this labor skill set market.
Right. Yeah. That's good stuff. This is great. Thanks for sharing all that. Let's keep this going. I love that we're going to be back together, and I think we are hitting some really, really, really awesome stuff. A lot of great stuff to chew on. I want to move to a practical tool that I've been using, that we've been using. Mike, you're ahead of the game. No, you're good. I was like, man, you know what's coming. You know. So I put a sheet on your desk there. Go ahead and grab one of those guys. You can set the. Those are not cookies. If you're getting hungry, don't try to take a bite of one of those. And so I want to show you. Jerry, see that? Got one of your pictures there. Yeah. I want to give you a framework because again, I want these trainings, I want these sessions to be practical. I want you to actually walk away with something valuable that you can immediately start using. And so one of those is the gradual release model. This is not, this is not rocket science, right? And when Jerry talks about the lost art of training, like this is what kind of happened intuitively back in the day, and this kind of thing is lost, right? This kind of thing has become rare and valuable now. But this is the model to think through the skills and training that you all have to do, that you got to get your novices to learn. And this is a great way to do it within the context of a really healthy culture based on relationships. So let me say that again. What's great about this is it's practical, it's helpful, it can be used in almost every context of training, and it is very, very relational and culturally focused. That's why I love it. Explanatory too, right? How does it work? How do you train someone in something? I do, you watch. I do, you help. You do, I help. You do, I watch. I mean, it's how much simpler could it get, right? But let's be honest about some of the training and development programs that exist in our organizations. How do they work in this? How do they look in this context? Well, a lot of times what I see is this. I do, you watch, and then you do, I watch, and I get frustrated. I am annoyed because how do you not know how to do it? How is this not working? You're killing me. I can't even watch you do it. Just move out of the way. I'll do it myself. Right? That's a lot of what I see. Right? And so this right here, though, it shows you what's happening. Like we're skipping steps 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are honestly the key to this whole process. And so when I ask you, let me ask you a question. What happens when we skip steps 2 and 3? What do you see? Have you seen this on the job? What are the consequences of skipping 2 and 3? What do you think?
Mistakes.
Huh?
Mistakes.
Mistakes. Yep. What's that?
Injuries.
Injuries. Yep.
Lost money.
A lot of money, right? It can be expensive.
You're going to do it again.
You're going to have to do it again.
Low morale.
Low morale. Yep.
Unmet expectations.
Unmet expectations. A lot of frustrations. A lot of conflict, right? And this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to spend a whole session on this whole point of this expert bias. What's really amazing about the way the human mind works is it's really terrible at remembering things. Like that's really weird to say, but it's true. So much of what training and development and learning is just trying to get people to remember things. Because it's so hard to remember things. And one of the biggest things that people forget is how they learn to do something. I ask folks on my jobs, hey, how did you learn the difference between a footer and a foundation? What do you think the answer is? I just learned it. I just did it. Right? Like, I don't know, like, how do you think someone should, how does someone learn that? You just got to do it. You got to read it, you got to look at it. I don't know, I can't help. I just did it. But that's, in actuality, that's not how we learned anything. We were talking earlier, right, about learning styles, right? And it was, for a lot of us, it was like, you probably, maybe you grew up in a household where construction work was happening. You just kind of saw it, right? Maybe you were helping out on the job for a few years, so you understood how the process worked. Maybe someone let you run a job. Maybe they came in and corrected you, and you had to relearn. Maybe you made mistakes on your own, and you were just your own learner, right? And then you get to a point of mastery, but that's the crazy thing. Once you reach a point of mastery, you get amnesia. You forget what it took for you to get there. Right? Yeah.
You just said something that triggered a thought. As leaders, how many times have you heard yourself, I hear myself saying, you just show up, right? As a leader, I found myself, Maddie, you just show up. Like, what do I do? Just show up. Like, as a leader, we learn to say things that aren't true. That's not true. I mean, that's what I say. That's Connor's heard me say that a lot. Just put it out there, Connor. Just push send, right? And what I'm learning right now is that, oh my gosh, I'm using words that aren't in terms, phrases that aren't true, that aren't helpful.
Right.
How do you learn how to install shower glass? You just show up. Well, that's not true.
Right.
How do you learn how to lead? You just show up.
Yeah.
That's not true.
One thing that I just realized, because I'd never heard of this before, but there's this learning framework that I've heard of that it lines up with this like exactly, and I wanted to share it with the group. Maybe it's unconsciously incompetent all the way through consciously or unconsciously competent. So basically, the first step, the novice in the I do, you watch would be they're so bad they don't even know they're bad, right? It's the unconsciously incompetent.
Yeah.
Like I don't know the first thing about it. I don't even know how to be good at it, right? And then the second step is where someone becomes consciously incompetent, where they at least know what they're doing wrong. And they still suck at it, but like they are at least aware that they're bad.
They can see the gap.
Yeah, they can see the gap. And then the next step is consciously competent, where if I try really hard, I can do it good. And I know what that looks like, but I have to like really focus. And then the last step is unconsciously competent, where I don't have to think about it and I can do it good.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the gap you're talking about with the experts having a hard time explaining is because both of the first step and the last step are unconscious. Like, they're so good they don't know that they're just good at it. They don't have to think. And then the other people are so bad they don't even know what being good looks like. And so that's, I thought that really lined up in an interesting way.
100%. I love that. That's great. There's a lot, yeah, I love that framework too. There's a lot of other applications to that, right? In training and development, it's like I want to get the folks to where they don't have to, they can just do it, right? But you know, this was a specific issue that we had at Fisher. So when I came in, part of the training, and this is a really important part of the training, is our field managers got to learn the scopes of work. We got a scope of work for everything. We got a scope of work for the roof. We got a scope of scope of work for the exterior concrete. Scope of work for trim in the house, right? Scope of work. There's 71 scopes of work. Each of those range from 3 pages to 30 pages. And so a lot of what I saw was just like, go read the scopes. It's in the scopes. How did you miss it? And we're going to go through this. Like I'm almost like I'm struggling because I'm like I want to tell you everything today, but we're going to talk about this later. But one of the things is just like, that's not how you learn the scopes. It's like weird. It's like, you don't learn them by reading them. That's a part of it. So I kind of create this like journal. I literally create a scope of work journal. It's a 6-month project where every person has to read it, take notes. They have to document what job they see that scope happening. They have to actually watch the footer being poured and set, right? And they have to document that. And then they actually have to have a conversation with someone about the scopes of like big ideas, things like that. And they got to do that on every single one, right? And that's a little better than just go read them. And they get frustrated because you didn't, this super technical document, you don't know every detail on it, right? And so this is the framework to think through your stuff. And a lot of the time, a lot of what you guys are sharing with me too is like we've got these gruff experts, these old dogs. This is another part of it. When you say train this person, you have to accept that they don't know how to do that. Right? They're great at that, whatever that thing is. They're not great at this unless you help them. So how are you going to help them? This is a great framework to think about. So, I do, you watch, right? Pretty self-explanatory. I do, you help. This is a big one, right? There has to be a transfer of action and responsibility. And it's a gradual process. But what we were sharing early on was like, isn't this like tons of work up here, tons of your time and energy? But down here, what's great is if you can get your people competent, they're solving problems, they're learning on their own, that's when things get easier for you, right? So, here's what I want you to do. You got a sheet there. I'd like you to spend a few minutes on your own, and then I'd like you to share whatever you come up with the people next to you. But take a few minutes, 5 minutes on your own, doesn't have to be perfect. Think of a single task that you have to train in. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be anything. What is one single task that requires training that you have to give to your novices when they get hired or when they're getting trained? And I want you to think about it in the terms of this model, but I want you to think about what specifically is happening at each of these stages. Okay, so, I need to train someone how to, I don't know, punch out a house. Okay? Got to train someone to punch out a house. So, step one is like, I'm going to have them shadow me punch out 5 houses. And I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to have them take notes. Okay? Then, maybe this next one, I'll have them punch out 1 room on their own and I'll go and check their work. Okay, and then give them feedback. Then the next one, I was like, I'll have them do 2 rooms and I'll check their work. Then we get down to this one, I'll have them punch out a whole house and then I'm going to walk through it with them to make sure that they didn't miss anything big. And then I'm just going to have them do it on their own, report to me if there's any big mistakes or challenges or anything like that. Does that kind of make sense what we're talking about there? It doesn't have to be rocket science, it's pretty simple. But take about 5 minutes on your own, fill this out for a specific task that you have to train someone in. Okay guys, I'll have to cut you off a little early, we'll keep going, but like 30 more seconds, so then we'll wrap up. Just for the sake of time, sorry about Alright, so when Jerry was talking to me about this whole project and this vision, the whole idea of a trade shortage is a huge problem. And Jerry, he can maybe share the story with you. The story he shared with me, and you can correct any discrepancies later, was essentially like he attended a function where people were addressing this issue, and there was a lot of like throwing up the hands and saying, there's nothing that we can do, this problem is too big and too complex. And so what I love is that Jerry's reaction wasn't to capitulate to that. It's like, no, I'm going to do work with it. You can do something. And the optimism and hope that I think we all love about Jerry. But And one of the things I love to think about is how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do we fix this? One person at a time. That's the way it happens. It starts small. It's the mustard seed, right? It's a small thing that grows very large. So you have this token. Here's what I want you to think about. This token for you represents one person. One person that you are going to implement the things that we talked about today, the passion and energy you're bringing to development. Can you find one person that is your +1? And that's who this token represents. It's your +1. If there's 20 of us in here, that means there are 20 people not in here that are going to be impacted by what we're doing together. That's crazy to think about. When you think about a whole nother room that could be growing and developing based on what we're doing. And eventually that's going to keep multiplying exponentially, but it starts very small. So here's my challenge to you. I challenge you to put this in your pocket right now, and I challenge you to put this in your pocket and keep it in your pocket for 30 days until we meet again. I know it's a big ask, because it's a prompt, right? When you reach in your pocket, you're going to hit this token, and it's going to remind you, who's my +1? Who is that person? You need a constant prompt. You're going to go back to your work, it's crazy. I promise you, you're going to go, you're already late, you already got a pile of emails waiting on you, right? It's already happening. You're going to already forget all this. Remember, the human brain is terrible at remembering things. So you need a reminder. So put this in your pocket, and remember, every time you touch it, every time you reach for your keys, who's my +1? Who's my +1? Who am I doing this with? Okay, is that fair? Can you do that for me? Keep it in your pocket for 30 days. Last thing before you walk out the door, could you please fill out a survey about your time today? Dakota, Jerry, and I are trying to create this awesome thing. We're trying to develop it and own it. Maybe it can be more, who knows? But do me a favor, it takes us a couple minutes. If you can just do that on your phone right before you jet out the door, that would be much appreciated.
You just put your camera on that like you do